but now with lines increasing, tickets torn in hand, memories in bits and pieces, traces of...
Welcome to the West End Video Newsletter. My name is Joe LaPiccolo, your host for this week's newsletter. My guest today is Jim Campano, former West Ender, and editor of the West End Newsletter, and the show we have here today.
Here we go. We've never shown this before. If you can get this on a shot up there. Okay, that's what the West Ender looks like. What the show all started from. We started with the newsletter, and then we went on to the TV show. And the reason I'm out here today is we had a guest and he didn't show up today, so I have to fill in.
We're going to wing it, so...
We're winging it, so whatever you're not going to get a really polished show today. So.
The newsletter began how long ago, Jimmy?
Oh, about 3 years ago. No, 6 years ago.
6 years, right.
6 years ago. We started out, and it's gone from a one-page mimeograph sheet, not mimeograph, Xerox sheet to what we have here, pictures and everything else, and matter of fact, we've been written about in all the major newspapers in Boston. Everything from the Boston Ledger to the Tab. Everybody's given us a little bit of.
Yeah, because this is a unique newsletter. Our neighborhood's gone 30 years ago, and here we have a newsletter that we put out, and it goes to almost 4,000 people, and how many states it goes to?
I think the last count was 35.
Right.
We're sending out to about 35 states, and some people send them out to. We sent one to Canada. Jane Jacobs, who wrote a book, The Death and Life of Great American Cities. We sent one to her up in Canada, and there are some people that send it to relatives. Somebody's sending one in Brussels, and there's another one being sent to some other foreign country. So we have quite an extensive circulation. We go a lot farther than the West End anyway.
And it's really read by most of the politicians in Boston too. They look up to this newsletter.
Sure. Matter of fact, we have this one. We have Mayor Flynn right on the cover. We have Mayor Flynn right here. He's on the.
We had a picnic there for elderly.
The bus, leaving on the bus, loading the people on the bus.
And we have another famous person in this other picture here.
Right here.
Yeah, is Leonard Nimoy.
Leonard Nimoy, right.
He's from the West End, and that's a picture of him taken in the Charles River many years ago, right, with his friends. He grew up in the West End, and all his buddies are on the Charles River there many years ago.
And one thing I'd like to say about Flynn, the Flynn administration has done quite a bit. It's been the first administration since the West End was torn down that ever did anything for West Enders. It's one of the few administrations that he's gone out for us totally. And anybody out there, if you can do a good turn for him, please do it.
Yeah, he's helped in our housing bid. There's one, even though the West End has been gone 30 years, there's still a battle. There still has been a battle. It's over with now for one little parcel of land that's left there down in the North Station area.
Right, in Lowell Square area.
Right, and Mayor Flynn has helped us to obtain this parcel of land for housing for former West Enders to go back there. And
actually, the Lowell Square area is what the show was originally supposed to be all about. There was this old horse trough, water fountain, okay, that everybody from the West End knew, because if you came from the West End, you either passed by it or stopped it and got water out of it or did something with it. And the show today, we were supposed to have a guest that had found part of the old horse trough, and he was supposed to come on and talk, but he hasn't shown up, so we're here just sort of winging it, and in a couple minutes we'll be showing an insert tape on it.
That little fountain that we're going to be showing, I remember when I was a kid, on the way to the old Lancaster movie theater at North Station, we used to stop by and squirt each other and fill our water balloons and have water balloon fights. And years ago it was used for where the horses were the main transportation in the city, going back and forth to the market and all that. The horses and teams used to stop, and the horses actually used to drink out of this trough.
Yeah,
it was pretty well known, right?
Yeah, it was sort of the entranceway because that square there on a causeway with Causeway Street and LeMasney Way now,
Lowell Street,
all came in together, and North Station was on the other side of it. So it was more or less like sort of right in the middle of this big square, and all you could see was this big green thing, big green trowel.
And in a couple of years, the housing will be right in that spot. There'll be housing right there.
Right directly in, that would be right directly in front of where the housing is.
Right. And, geez, many people are going to have put in applications to our survey to go back to the Lower West End.
And we've gotten about 300 replies to our survey for the housing down there.
That'll be great, because we also plan a museum in the housing.
Right.
And people could come from all over the country who used to live there, because there are no streets left and no businesses left that are schools. So people could come to the West End in a couple of years. There'll be housing. There'll be farmer residents there. There'll be a museum and a meeting house that will be great. And after 30 years, I feel like the Indians. We won a battle.
And we're going to have retail. There'll be retail stores there too.
Right.
So, and it'll all come together. It should come together quite well.
Again, the newsletter started 6 years ago, and from the newsletter we started this called the West End Video Newsletter, which you're watching today, and it's very unique. It's very unique. I don't know of any other show called a newsletter. With that concept.
Right. Well, that's we transcended from print to video.
And we thank the cable access stations in Somerville, Boston, and Brookline, and Medford for allowing us to bring a form of our history back to the people who really don't know about it.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, cable access is one of the most important things that has happened in the last 10 years. It gives people like us the opportunity to speak out on what's on our mind, even though there isn't a large audience out there for it. But we can bring it for our own people. In other words, and if other people are interested, they can watch too.
Well, I agree. There's not really a lot, but I'm surprised that no matter where I go, I can't believe it. That people say, "No, we saw your show on cable TV."
So you've become a star.
Thanks. Yeah, but no, really, I really there's a greater audience than people realize. They really do watch this show, and they love hearing about the Old West End and its history and the old politicians.
Well, when I say not a major audience, I'm talking about rather like Channel 4 or Channel 5. They live on ratings, and if they don't get a certain set amount of ratings, they don't do the show. They can't do the show. Whereas us, and if only one person's watching, okay, then that's enough. And it's up to us. As long as we produce it, it'll go on.
Another thing unique too is this: our newsletter and the show brings people back together. I mean, the newsletter here is. There are letters written from people all over the country, and they're non-edited, and it's their memories about themselves growing up in the West End, their former neighbors, and the streets they lived on, and the businesses they visited and shopped at, and the schools and their teachers and religious facilities. Because the West End, as everybody knows, was a unique neighborhood. It was like an urban village made up of all people of all different nationalities and colors. And
well, they use that word urban villages quite a bit now for different places, but the West End was the first. Herbert Gans wrote the book Urban Villages, and that was, he specified, I can't even say it. Specifically mentioned the West End. Okay? It was made specifically for the West End. And that's finally got it out.
And that's used as a teaching vehicle in all the schools all over the country.
That's right.
In regards to urban renewal, how not to do urban renewal.
Mark Freed wrote a book too called "The World of the Urban Working Class" that was done on a study about the West End too. Not only his book, I don't know if it has reached as large an audience as Gans's did, but they both did major studies. Matter of fact, there were five or six major studies on the West End done when they tore it down. It was one of the first. One of the first times they could study large movements of people not under the stress of war. So they gave them an idea, what moving without the stress of war would do to people. And in one of the studies in the Lindemann Center, they came up with something like 90% of the people were suffering from some type of depression. So
a lot of people got hurt, including my family and your family, Jimmy, from the tearing down of the West End. There's been a lot of illnesses, a lot of depression, a lot of anxieties, and many people died of broken hearts because of
the old people, especially the older people. It hit them most.
Right,
and they were used to, especially some of these people were probably Alzheimer's. I mean, in those days you didn't say Alzheimer's.
Right.
But some of them were probably Alzheimer's, and taking them out of there was, if they weren't, orientated there, you know, when you took them out and put them somewhere else, they definitely
Right.
were going to be even worse, you know. Their orientation would totally be gone.
I don't think you'll ever see that again. That was the last place that was ever going to happen to, because they were going to try to do it in other parts of the city.
Well, they did. They did it in the New York streets, and it's funny because the only two areas in Boston that were that eminent domain was used on large clearings were New York streets and the West End. And it's funny because both areas were racially and ethnically mixed. I think the South End was like 24 separate ethnic and racial mixtures, and the West End was approximately 23 racial and ethnic mixtures. And it's funny that those are the only two areas that were raised by eminent domain for urban renewal.
Oh, that's very interesting. Jimmy, now we have a film clip we're going to be going to right now. This is where we talked about the trough we talked to.
The trough. Right.
So we're going to break away for the film clip. We'll see you in a few minutes.
That's a beautiful spot, and you think about what happens when you kind of come to the end of your life and you want to go someplace that's nice. And we don't know any human being that wound up over here at the end of their life, but the famous water fountain for the horses that was at the bottom of Causeway Street wound up here in a beautiful spot, and we're going to take a look at it in a while. But let's talk to some of the people that were associated with this thing and helped save it from being demolished with the rest of the West End. On my left is my friend Fred Alper, who happens to be the great-grandson of Meyer Abrams, who originally the fountain was dedicated for. And Fred is going to tell us about exactly how it wound up here and how they saved it from being in the compactor with the rest of the scrap.
Thank you, Tony. Nice to be here today. This is my nephew, Skylar Tenen, from California, visiting us. A little bit about the history of the fountain. It was dedicated to my great-grandfather, Meyer Abrams. The inscription read, "To Meyer Abrams, a lover of horses." He was a horse dealer. I don't think he was a horse thief. I think he was just a horse dealer in Boston, and he did truly love horses. And the fountain, the trough, horse trough, was dedicated in his honor or his memory, I'm not sure. When the city of Boston was demolishing it in the name of progress, in quotes, some members of my family heard about it and rushed down, and all they were able to do was save the top part of it, which we brought down to our place here in South Plymouth, and it's used now where we have the hose, so it still is true to its tradition of being associated with water. Actually, Tony Otto remembers as a kid taking showers underneath the horse trough and squeezing the two little things, and when he first saw it, when he came down, I think it was last year, it evoked all kinds of memories, and it was Tony's idea to share this with other people who might have similar memories, because I guess it was one of the few monuments that was there for a long time that was associated with the West End. So it was really a fun day with a lot of memories when Tony came down and asked my mother about the horse trough, and she gave him a mixture of history and story and a little fantasy mixed in, all of which combined to make for some interesting reading in the newsletter.
And all I have to say is that Fred is the kind of guy that would like to have everybody from the West End see where the fountain is. So I don't care if there are 500, 800 of you people. You want to come down, bring the picnic baskets and the dogs and the kids and everything. We'll just have a wonderful time here. Will you tell people how to get here, Fred?
You're all welcome to come.
Oh, God. We'd like to later on walk over and talk to Fred's mother about it and see if we get some memories of her grandfather and things that happened in the West End, the type of life that he led that people thought was nice enough to want some kind of a monument to his memory. And I think all of us remember the fountain and the faucets and how we used to rush from the Lancaster, from North Station, and just cool off on a hot day, and next thing you start splashing the water around and stuff. And I tell you, the first time I saw it, it really brought back some great memories for me, And you looked at this thing, and you were a kid again, splashing water and having a great time. And I think everybody would like a peek at it. Unfortunately, it's not the way you remember it because it's just the top part. But at least we were able to save something. And let's take a walk over and see Fred's mother, and then we'll take a look at the fountain, what's left of it. This is Fred's mother, Margie Alper, and we're going to talk to her. It was her grandfather who was the horse dealer, Maya Abrams, who the monument was dedicated to. And can you tell us a little bit about your grandfather?
Well, I really didn't know him, as I was a very little child when he died. But I heard wonderful stories about him. He was a lover of horses, and he and my father were in the business together, horse business.
He used to sell horses.
And they used to sell them. And many years after he died, his two sons, my father and my Uncle Maurice, decided that they would put up a monument in his honor because he was such a lover of horses. And the monument was to water the horses whenever they came around. And that was just about it. But when the city of Boston decided to redevelop, they took the entire fountain away. And we were very fortunate in being able to save the lower part of it. And as it happens, the lower part had a little picture of the horse on it.
Yeah, which is very nice.
It was very nice. And that's really about it. And we're very proud to have it, but we wish we'd had the part that we couldn't get before.
Yeah.
And
You don't have any idea what happened to the inscription?
no, the rest of the little trough was taken by the city.
No.
And they just, I imagine, they just got rid of it because they were redeveloping the whole area there, and that was just about it.
It's a shame because a lot of the stuff that was valuable was compacted and sold as scrap, and
I'm sure
I imagine
was.
something like that was, yeah.
I'm sure
But
it
it's
was.
not true that Fred sold the bronze plaque that had the inscription on it, because I heard that Fred sold it for pocket money.
Oh, he wouldn't do that.
No, he wouldn't do that.
Oh, no.
Why don't we-
No, he's too honest.
What a nice man he is. You're
I
so
know
lucky
it.
to have a son like that.
Thank you. I feel that same way.
We're going to take a walk over and take some pictures of the what's left of the
All right.
monument, and also show that we still have water coming out of it, and we'll even take one of the hoses and squirt Fred with it. Although,
all right.
I remember we used to have the faucets, used to have the handles that you squeeze together before instead of the ones that you turn.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I
that-
wasn't around at that time.
That went with the bottom of it, I guess.
I guess so.
Let's take a walk over.
These are the squeeze handles.
Yeah.
Tony was a little boy. Used to drink out of this.
That's right. I wasn't a horse, but I used to drink out of this. My brother and old Wesley Stevenson and Sonny Mercurio and all of us, we used to splash water all around. You look at something like this, and you really can picture it where it was at the bottom of Causeway Street and the little troughs over there. Actually, if you come around here, you can see that it's still hooked up. There's still water going through it.
I don't know how we ever got this.
And if Fred wants to get on the other end of the hose, we'll squirt him with it just to prove that. But this is not an authentic faucet, though. The faucets that they had were the. Hey, look at that! See that? It really works. Oh boy, isn't that great? And you got a shot of the faucets on the other side. We used to squeeze the handles together like that. Isn't that wonderful? Well, I tell you, Fred, when you decide to donate to this West End, to the, we can put this almost back in the spot where it was in Causeway Street. Well, not really, but maybe closer to the building there. What was on top here?
That was the part that they
plaque
took
was-
away.
Oh.
This was all that was left when we went to look at it.
Oh, this is the lower part of it.
It must have been.
Yeah.
It must have been the plaque was up here.
That's right.
We have a picture somewhere, Tony, and if we ever get to find the picture, I will be sure to send it to you.
Wasn't this
Somewhere.
painted green instead of, would you do me a favor and repaint this the right color? Because black is not the color for our fountain here. I mean, you guys, you're going to do something, do it right. I want green paint over here. Bring a gallon of green paint next time you come down here, and we'll paint this thing green. That's very nice, Fred. Very nice. It's so great
There's a little
that...
green right here.
Ah, that's because
Yeah,
you
right
didn't
there.
clean the black. Yeah. Yeah, that's nice.
You know what the inscription was.
It said, in memory of Maya Abrams, a lover.
In memory of Maya Abrams, a lover of horses. By his family, I guess that's the way they put it.
But isn't it amazing? There were so many people that dealt in horses. Either they had horsing teams for the vegetables and stuff, or they rented horses at the stable, they sold horses. But a lot of them did it just as a way of making a living. They really weren't that fond of horses, but Maya Abrams really liked horses.
Very definitely. Very definitely.
I like horses, but most of the ones I liked never came in, you know. Spent most of my money on them, but you think someday they'll have an inscription by Suffolk Downs, Tony Otto, lover of horses, and have the dollars going down the funnel?
It's very funny, Tony. Very funny.
I wonder where this was done, where this was made, actually. Yeah. And we want to thank Marge Alper for letting us tramp all over her property and take a look at her grandfather's fountain here, and of course her son, Fred Alper, who is really the guy that told me about this in the first place. And he's kind of anxious for us to steal it from him some night. He's sitting up with a shotgun to make sure I don't take this thing. But boy, that sure would look nice in the West End, wouldn't it?
Well, we're back live now. I hope you enjoyed the little piece about the water trough, the famous water trough. It was quite a nice little
yeah, well, if you were from the West End, you knew about it.
Yeah. If you weren't from the West End, you know about it now.
That's right. We're going to tell you about it whether you like it or not. You're going to get it.
So getting back to our newsletter that we started, on the front page here, there's an article here on the front page about a bowling team.
Bowling team?
Now,
oh, sure.
There's no neighborhood, yet there's a bowling team, and 30 years later.
Right.
Wow, that's really a phenomenon.
Yeah.
You know, you don't find that too often. And we bowl every Wednesday night at the Fenway Bowlodrome underneath Fenway Park. Anybody's welcome. And starting September, every Wednesday night at 8 o'clock, we need some more bowlers. So anybody from the West End who's interested, come and visit us, and we'll be glad to put you on. Jim, we have a little article there, too, about state of the neighborhood convention. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, about 3 years ago there was one. You were there, Joe.
Sure.
You were one of the speakers at the...
Oh, yeah, it was great.
From what I understand, you did quite a good job. And they're having it again this year. It was when all the neighborhoods got together and all their concerns, and they voiced what, you know, was good for their neighborhoods and everything. They're doing it again October 5th. It's called the State of the Neighborhoods Convention.
It'll be held where, Jimmy?
It's going to be at that's the address to get in touch with. 410 Columbus Ave, Boston, and the number is 424-1066. I don't know exactly where they're going to have the actual conference, but
they can call that number and get
they
the
call that
information.
number, and that's the address where you get in touch with, and they'll put you in touch if you feel your neighborhood has. In Boston, if your neighborhood has something to contribute, they'd like to hear from you.
Well, the good thing about that is all the neighborhoods from the city are all invited, and I think there was over 500 people at the last convention, and
yeah, it was quite good.
And they used the West End as an example. Well, here we are with no neighborhood, and we're still invited. That
right.
goes to show you what type of neighborhood the West End was.
Right.
And well, they used the West End as an example on how not to do urban renewal today, and how to fight for your neighborhood rights, so that won't happen in your neighborhood. So we hope everybody takes the time to go there.
We have some other things here, too, that we'd like to tell you about. And the West End House is having their 85th anniversary dinner. And that's on October 26th at the Boston Park Plaza. Anybody that came from the West End was, affiliated with the West End House, if you'd want to go. I think it's $40 a person, and you could just, call the West End House, and they'll take care of you whatever you want.
The West End House is located in Alston, Mass. It's in the phone book.
The number is 782-6041.
Okay, that's great. I'm glad you have that.
Okay.
What else is happening? The St. Joseph's Church.
St. Joseph's Church. They're having their annual West End Memorial Mass for all deceased West Enders, and that happens on October 27th, 1991. Anybody that came from the West End is welcome to come back, and Father Buck will welcome everybody. He has a Mass in the morning. I think it's at 11 o'clock. 11:30. It's at 11:30, and afterwards there is a reception where they have served food and cookies and cake. So you're welcome to come back after that. And I'm sure Father Buck would love to see you.
And one other big happening is, this is a biggie, is the West End reunion, the 5th West End reunion.
Right.
And that's Sunday, November 10th. And it's going to be at the Wonderland Ballroom in Revere. And geez, we've had upwards of 2,000 people at these reunions, and we hope to fill the hall again.
Yeah.
So we hope to see everybody there. That's a great. People come from all over the country to come to this reunion. So that's another thing that's happening. And
well, this show is more like a newsletter than it normally is. Usually we take one subject and just go in depth on it. But today
we forgot one thing, Jimmy.
What's that?
The 50s dance.
Oh, the 50s dance for the Elizabeth Peabody House. That's right. The Elizabeth Peabody House in Somerville is having, and Elizabeth Peabody House and Camp Gannett Association is having a 50s dance on, what is it, September 7th.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody from the West End who would be interested in going, it's a 50s dance with a hot buffet, and I think it's $12 a head.
Right. And that's going to be in Somerville at the Peabody House. That's on Broadway. I don't have the number. Do you have the number?
It should be right there, Joe. 277 Broadway. Right.
Okay, 277 Broadway. So we'd like to see everybody there. We had a great time at the 50s dance last year. It was overflowing crowd, and we hope to see the same this year.
So that's mostly community news for a community that actually isn't together anymore. That doesn't have any physical capacity.
Again, I'll repeat it, and I just can't believe it that these things are happening, and there's no neighborhood. It's gone 30 years. That's the closeness of the people that were there. Well, it was such a unique body. And
well, it's certainly a different era.
Right.
I mean, it was certainly a different era. People were different. Number one, more neighborhoods were cohesive and close, but the West End was especially close and cohesive, more so than just about any place that I've ever been.
I hope you enjoyed our show today. It was a little bit of nostalgia. See you at the next West End video newsletter.
Covered now